I am not from New York, and I don't follow it very much. And I tend to, I've read different things about his quote unquote feelings toward Israel, and they didn't give me a warm fuzzy. And if you're telling me that he's adamantly opposed, I'm going to have to trust your judgment, because I assume you follow it far closer than I do.
I would say if you're running in New York City and you're talking the way he's talking, that is as against Israel as you could possibly. And that is, I mean, you're talking about, the Yenta privileged mamas coming up to him on the street saying, "You don't support Israel." And it's like, all right, well, dude, if you're going for it, you're going. And he's unapologetic about it. That's what makes it even better. He's like, no, I love Israel. He's like, that's if nothing else, I think it's proof, as it should be for anybody, that collectively, outside of electoral politics, that we can make this happen. But the reason I bring him up is because clearly the establishment is very concerned about the prospect of him winning. And I bring that up because the New York Times, of course, decided that a few months ago, they announced that they were no longer making endorsements in local elections. They've made an exception to denounce Zohran Mamdani and endorse grandma slayer, alleged sex criminal, and suburban thug Andrew Cuomo. And this is what they had to say. Unfortunately, Mr. Mamdani is running on an agenda uniquely unsuited to the city's challenges. He's a democratic socialist who too often ignores the unavoidable trade-offs of governance. Could you just say bribes? Could you just say quid pro quos? When you say trade-offs, you're trying to make it sound sexy. You're trying to make it sound attractive. But in reality, you're just hiding the fact that it's pure corruption, that he doesn't want to play in that sandbox. And if there's one thing we know about Andrew Cuomo, and especially because he is an opportunity to get back into power, could you even imagine the type of backroom deals that guy is making? The type of quid pro quo deals that he's making to get back into power after everything that he did, from how he handled COVID to how he deals with women to how he was blocking any type of populist legislation in Albany. I mean, could you imagine the type of shit he's had to do? And now he's got the New York Times basically simping for his ass. And it's just so transparently corrupt as far as I can see.
Well, if you read that closely, you realize you're dealing with the YIMBYs. And the YIMBYs are a particularly pernicious brand of evil. I want you to think about this, right? If your goal is to make housing available for all, we always forget this because it's convenient to forget this. And when I say we forget this, I mean we all forget that. Not folks that run in my circle, but the people that don't run in my circle, that stay in other circles. The federal government, if its goal was to provide houses for all, could literally choose to provide houses, could buy up plots of land, could use eminent domain, buy up plots of land, buy up houses that are being squatted on, could do whatever, build great, wonderful, non-crappy public housing across the country without any effort whatsoever. And with the climate crisis, most of the jobs that we do today in this country, save for industrial labor and factory work, can be done remotely. There's no need for a car to put fuel out there, emissions into the air. There's no reason for a person to have to. They could live outside the city, work in the city, and telework. There's no reason they couldn't do that. Even in public housing, they could make it so people could do that. No, not all people are great at doing this. But then again, what is anybody all great at, right? But we choose to think that we have to let the markets figure it out. And if you read the bullshit they're talking about, they're literally trying to make this YIMBY thing a thing. And it's across the country. And unfortunately, even groups like DSA have allowed the YIMBYs to kind of have a platform. And YIMBYs are the ultimate in right-wing kind of, abundance types. These are the abundance people, the new abundance flavor that is nothing but Ronald Reagan deregulation. Obviously, regulating rent is regulation. We want to get rid of that. We want to make it good for developers. We want to make it good for investors. Why not eliminate the ability of BlackRock and others to buy up these properties? Why not pass a law? You can pass a law doing that just the same, right? There's nothing preventing it other than that's not what our government is there for. Our government simps for capital. It is, and go back to my opening statements, going back to the founding documents. It's always been about private property, protecting private property, protecting private wealth. And so what is eliminating rent, capping rent and literally getting rid of that disgraceful YIMBY mindset? Instead of envisioning a more robust public sector that the federal government funds the state or enables them, because the federal government being the currency issuer can do whatever the fuck it wants. Why not do that? Well, because that is not going to be the most profitable way for the rich to get richer. And what do they want? They want to accumulate. So I'm not here to simp for Mamdani. I don't know anything about him. I really do. I know just enough to say, okay, I see people want him. I'm not in that district. I don't have to worry about it. But when you look at what's being done there, understanding the YIMBY mindset is to understand the devil, to understand Reagan taking over the Democratic Party worse than it already did.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what's even more telling, and Colin, if you could pull up that image that I just sent over to you again, they took out this article in the New York Times. They took out a full-page ad saying that a rent freeze is bad for renters. No, a rent freeze is bad. It's not even necessarily bad for entrepreneurs. It's bad for corporate landlords. That's who it's bad for. And I know who these people are because I'm in this world. It's what I do. And so I can assure you guys that it's all about capital, pure and simple. It doesn't matter how detestable Andrew Cuomo is or how likable Zohran Mamdani is. What matters is that one person is going to do everything in their power to protect corporate special interests, and the other person is going to try to make it a more even playing field. And he's not even asking for that much, but just even something around the margins, something as simple as a rent freeze for what will probably amount to a short period anyway, maybe 6 months to a year, whatever it would look like. But even something as simple as that, I think the reason that this is such a precarious problem is that I think that there's enough cracks in the armor right now that they realize that if they even allow a slight tweak, especially in a place like New York, it could reverberate in substantial ways. But I think that that's also the problem with the system itself, is that it's cratering in so many ways. Like, people have to know that the average person cannot afford this anymore. And you're seeing the commentary from a lot of different people who perhaps their tune just a few years ago wouldn't have been anything even close to something like that. Only now they're starting to see the truth about how things really are. They're recognizing that there's a reason you cannot afford to live in these places, because the people who actually own these buildings, they don't care about the people who live there. They just care about the bottom line. Frankly, most of them don't even live in the area. They live somewhere completely different. We know that the Zionists in particular, the ones who own the buildings all over New York City that are basically slumlord paradises, if you will, they're living in Miami Beach and places like that. They don't give a damn about these people at all. And if somebody like Mamdani is going to come in there and make some type of an impact, however peripheral or small it may be, just to give people some semblance of hope, the powers that be don't want it. They don't care. And they're going so far as to say, we will put Andrew fucking Cuomo back in power because he plays ball. That's it. There's no magical why don't people like Zohran? Because Zohran doesn't like corporate special interests. That's it. Everything else, forget it. It doesn't mean it. Nothing else matters. This is it.
Agreed. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know what I think is interesting, because you're in this business, right?
Sure.
See, I would eliminate the rentier class altogether if I had a choice. I would just eliminate it.
I think that
I would eliminate.
No, I think that there's value in responsible ownership. But the problem is that we don't have responsible ownership. We have predatory ownership, and there is a difference. There's a significant difference. There are people who actually think that there's a justification for people to pay $3,000 a month to live in a broom closet. Like they think, somebody's willing to pay for it. Hey, it's not my problem. I'm making the money.
It's capitalism. Right? Yeah. I'm an avowed socialist. So if you think about the difference between what I'm saying and maybe what you're saying, I'm a socialist. I'm not I'm not here to make somebody rich. I'm here to get the workers and the people to have homes and jobs and ownership of their world, ownership of their own decisions, but as a collective, right? To produce the kind of outcomes that help everyone, not just somebody that made a really good investment, right? My goal here in this world is to look out for all, not to enable somebody to get rich. So, because, think about this. If everybody's rich, nobody's rich, right? The
Sure.
way rich people judge themselves is by the distance
How much
between
do
them
I have
and the
compared
next.
to the next person?
That's
Exactly.
right. And I think that mindset is a cancer, right? I would eliminate that. I would make it so that that's not a thing. And, obviously human beings want what they want. But when you say, this is what you can do, and this is how you can do it, because it's not just about what you want, it's about what's good for all, right? Like, think about this. I talked to a really, really phenomenal physicist who understands economics and understands the environment, and at a molecular level understands, everything's emanating from the sun down to the soil, through the water, to you name it. And when you think about how connected everything is, to be atomized and to think that you are the be all end all of your own little world and that what matters is you win, is so fundamentally fucked and wrong. If you just understand that, like, for example, one of my favorite stories he told was in the Netherlands. They had this really, really booming industry for the crops. They were like, how in the world are you growing so much on such a small piece of land? And what they found is that the fertilizers and stuff that they were using were incredible, and it created these robust crops. But guess what happens? It seeps into the soil. It creates drainage that runs off into the waterways, that creates algae blooms, and all of a sudden creates completely dead zones that are never going to be fertilizable again for who knows how long, right? And so the people downstream have to deal with the Clive and Bundy method. They have to deal with what happened upstream. Mm-hmm. So when you don't understand the connectedness of all things, you do things extraordinarily selfishly. So from my vantage point, and don't get me wrong, dude, I used to be a libertarian. So it's not like this is something that I'm a lifelong guy that thinks this way. I came to this very, very hard knocks route, man, having to learn and bump the shit out of my head. And so from my vantage point, if you think about where I'm coming from, sure, I want to lead a happy, healthy life. I want my kids to be living in a world where they don't have to worry about stupid things that they shouldn't have to worry about. I don't want them swallowing debt because the world is trying to privatize the commons so that we're all stuck paying even more debt. I don't want that for them, but that's what this kind of atomization does. And that's, I feel like I got to live forever to protect my children. And I can't even protect myself right now. That's how bad it is. So I would proffer up that, yes, sure, a couple people making out big on some good investments and stuff like that may feel good. But in the end, it's a model. It's a business model that predates on people, whether or not one or two good people do it. The problem is that all the others, and what you've seen is the gross mismanagement of this by having BlackRock buy up all the stuff. So in the end, in my opinion, and it is my opinion, but it's an opinion shared by a few people, I think, out there. Sure. We need to be looking at building a public commons, not building private wealth. And that's a tough pill to swallow for some that have eaten the USA's rhetoric for the last 300 years or so.
Yeah, it's a tough go around. One thing I just wanted to point out is that early voting did, in fact, begin today in the mayoral race. And with the looks of the numbers so far, they do seem to be very favorable towards Zohran. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, look, the one thing you also have to remember, Steve, is that a lot of people are very, I don't want to say everybody's depressed necessarily, but, a lot of people are really down in the dumps about the system in so many ways. So, perhaps a nice little shot in the arm might be good. I mean, all of it is for naught if, somehow we get dragged or into war with Iran.
Do you think we get dragged? Or, just curious. Do you think we're getting dragged, or do you think we're like literally in each other's back pocket? My guess is, and I could be wrong, but I don't think I am because Trump came out and said it. He literally slow played Iran into believing there was a nuclear proliferation while they were feeding Israel everything they needed to do this launch of this war. I mean, this is a truly a U.S. driven thing. It's not the other way around. I think it's like in complete cahoots. I don't see us being the poor wimpy empire that just bent to knee to Netanyahu. You know,
I don't. Here's the thing, and I don't agree with you, Mo. I don't think Zionism is here to stay at all. I actually think it is on its way out, but it's going to go through. Again, it's going to reach its apex, which it's trying to do right now. Here's the thing: no matter what happens with Iran, Zionism is dying in the United States, and everyone knows it because people can see the pure hatred that people have for the state of Israel. And no matter how much the Zionists scream from the rooftops that this is all anti-Semitism, people just don't care anymore. They just don't care. They're like, call me whatever the fuck you want. I see right through you, and you're not selling me on this. And now that we've already shown that some of those wonderful accounts online led by the psychopaths like Laura Loomers of the world, they're getting paid to talk like this. No one just, I mean, yes, are there true believers? Maybe. They still exist, but overwhelmingly, everyone's just got their hands out. They just want to get paid. Everyone knows that the Treasury is getting looted right now. You've got insider trading that is just done in full view of the public, and nothing happens to these people. Nothing. In fact, it's encouraged. We now have a Nancy Pelosi stock tracker, channel on Twitter that's blown up that people just follow. And I'm thinking, how does anybody trust the rule of law? You can't trust the rule of law because this is what happened when everybody was going after Trump. And I'm thinking, yeah, Trump does a lot of bad shit, but he's doing a lot of bad shit that everybody else is doing. And everyone just wants to point the finger at him like he's the guilty party. No, you all fucking suck. You're all on the inside. You're all playing us for fools. And as I've been saying quite a bit lately, Lincoln's greatest saying, you can fool some of the people all the time. You can fool all the people some of the time. You cannot fool all the people all of the time. And we're in that stage now where they've played this game one too many times. We're seeing it right now with Iran. They're doing the same exact playbook that they did with Iraq. It's the same fucking thing. Nothing's changed. It's amazing how they're just simply incapable, or maybe that's hubris on their part because they're so convinced that Americans are dumb as fuck and that they will believe anything, that we'll just repeat the same thing over and over again. There is no need for us to shift our rhetoric. We just need to continue saying what we're saying.